August 19th, 2014 to order. We'll stand for a moment of silent reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by P.J. Conover.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is to review and approve the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Go ahead, Ian.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the consent agenda. Holly?
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hannes, Commission Office Manager. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains of the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 5th, 2014, approval of the vouchers in the amount of $2,270,507.35, to recognize the volunteers for the month of July 2014 as submitted by the Human Resource Department. And number 8 is to continue the agenda item for the review of the unimproved land parcels that receive owner-occupied classification to the September 2nd, 2014 Commission meeting.
Does anyone have any changes they wish to make to the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item 9 is PACE Law, request for land to be taken into trust status. Mr. Mark Van Norman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Van Norman, and I work with the Shakopee Sioux Tribe, and we're working with the Rosebud Sioux Tribe and Crow Creek Sioux Tribe and Standing Rock Sioux Tribe to recover some acreage in the Black Hills. And I'm here today with Kurt Blue Dog, and I'd like to ask him to join me if that's okay.
Please.
And we're also here with Mike Kermany Horses. And basically, I'll just give you a little background that about 2 years ago, the Reynolds decided to put their land on the market. It had been a long-time homestead, and it was of great interest to the Sioux tribes because it's a historic site and it's a sacred site, and it's related to Lakota beliefs about astrology, and so the tribes wanted to work together to recover the land and keep it in its natural state as a sacred site, and maybe just return buffalo to the land.
As Mark said, I'm Kurt Blue Dog. I came in from Minneapolis. I've been general counsel to the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Tribe for 22 years. I'm originally from South Dakota. I was born and raised over by Waubay, South Dakota, over in the northeast part of the state. And my wife is from South Dakota as well, from the Pine Ridge Reservation. But we're here to urge in concert with the other involved tribes, as Mark mentions. It's primarily, I think, the Rosebud Sioux Tribe has taken a lead on this important measure, and the Crow Creek Tribe and the Standing Rock Tribe, which of course is in both South and North Dakota. We're actually from Minnesota. We're from the eastern portion of the what we call the Ocheti Shakowee, the 7 council fires that make up the Sioux Nation. but feel very much aligned with the tribes, the Lakota tribes out here. Over on the east side, we're known as the Dakota tribes, slightly different dialect in the native language, the Sioux language, is a distinction. Most of the people most of the members from the eastern tribes, the Dakota people, had, you probably are aware, back in 1862, our people had disagreements with the United States government, and there were some battles that took place, and our people were largely removed. In fact, there's a federal law in the books right now yet from 1863. It's called the Dakota Removal Act, which sought to remove all Sioux Indians from Minnesota to the western areas, and those previous to South Dakota being a state, which happened, I think, in 1889. So a lot of our people were scattered west. Many of them out here joined the tribes out here in the western part, what we call the Lakota tribes again, Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Standing Rock, Cheyenne River, Crow Creek, and Lower Brule, and the Yankton Sioux as well. Most of them, though, settled in the Siston Wap. The upper two bands of the Dakota were Sisitowa, Wachbeto, Dakota Oyate, were settled with my people in the Siston area, northeast part of South Dakota. The southern group of the Dakota, the eastern Sioux Indians, again, were removed out of Minnesota primarily to Nebraska, the Santee Reservation, and right on the border, Nebraska border. And some of them then traveled up to Flanju. Those are Wachbekute and Medawakatan band of Dakota Sioux Indians. So that's how we fit in. A lot of people came out here and joined the tribes out here, but still remained separate. So our people, and a few of them remained in Minnesota. There are 4 small reservations in Minnesota that are still the Sioux, again, Ocheti Shakoi is the way we say it, Dakota Sioux, and that's at Prairie Island, us, Shakopee, Midwauketon, Lower Sioux, and Upper Sioux. But they're all, all of the Sioux Indians are allied going back many centuries. So that's the tie-in that our people have always had with the tribes from out in this area. So we've joined in. And we've been very fortunate. Our chairman always says that we didn't move our tribe, we didn't move our reservation to the Twin Cities metropolitan area, but the city itself moved out. There's a lot of expansion. And so our tribal council, our leadership very much acknowledges that they've been in a very fortunate position, being just really a part of the Twin Cities, and had very successful gaming activity in the Mystic Lake Casino just south of the Twin Cities. Some of you maybe have been there. And so our people were requested by the tribes out here with the opportunity that presented itself on the Reynolds family, decided to move on and put their acreage, at least initially, their large, the 1,942 acres up for sale, almost 2 years ago now. I think it was on November 30th of 2012 that the closing actually took place here in Rapid City. Then later, our group, Shakopee, and all the groups were made aware that Reverend Kramer, Linda Kramer, the Episcopal minister up near Hill City, lives near, almost on, I guess, Peshla, did put some of her acreage up for sale. She's moving along, getting close to retirement too, I think, and so she has been a real good friend to, as you probably are aware, good friend to the Lakota people out here. We got to know her real well, and so out of the money that our tribe had appropriated, we did buy 80 acres from her. That closed on December 31, 2013. So that added to the original 1,942 acres, I think 2,022 acres. Now, we may have a little bit of discrepancy on the acreage here, a few more or a few less. I know we did do an outside land survey, had it done, and the acreage amount came up a little bit different from what had been listed in the documents, the sale documents. So we have. I'm not sure what it is at this moment. We thought it was 2022. It's something a little bit less or a few acres more, according to the survey, the outside survey that was done. So I'm not sure it makes a whole lot of difference because we bought them in parcels, those two parcels, So, there, again, I just wanted to point out there's a little bit of discrepancy. I'm not sure what the final answer is. We'll have to nail that down, I think. So that's what we're here for. We're here to request the support of the Pennington County Board of Commissioners because we're going to move to ask the federal government to take the acreage into trust status. And we recognize this is unusual. There are no reservations right here. There are no existing reservations in the Black Hills as we know it. There are 9 reservations in South Dakota, federally recognized Indian tribes. And so we're planning to ask the federal government, we're going to petition them, we're going to submit an application through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Department of Interior. And as you probably are aware, or maybe you're not aware, there is federal statute, a federal law that's been in place for a long time, since 1934, the Indian Reorganization Act, which authorizes tribes, federally recognized tribes, not just any Indians or any group of Indians, but those tribes that are specifically federally recognized under the United States statutes, allows those tribes to petition the federal government to take land into trust status on their behalf. So we're planning to do that. We're hoping to do that in August, but it's been difficult. And I guess I've been doing the primary work in terms of gathering the information. It's a big packet of information, a lot of red tape to put it together. But we're doing that, and we're getting close. And so we're hoping to get the documents submitted to the federal government, if not in August, hopefully in September. So we wanted to come and touch base and basically look you folks in the eye and let you know so you get the story directly from us on what our plans are, where we've been, where we're going, and hopefully ask for your support on that. And, you know, that's the reason we're here. Let me see. Oh, once we submit the application, the federal law, of course, authorizes what they call interested parties, and certainly Pennington County is very much an interested party, opportunities to comment, object, agree with the process that's put in place for the federal government to administratively go through the application and make a determination. So that's a status. That's where we're at. I don't think I have anything else right now.
Well, I guess it's worth saying that this land has always been agricultural land, and the Reynolds had it just mainly for cattle, and they rotated their cattle through and hayed the land. So they have a 3-wire fence up there, but it's pretty much in its natural state. And our intention among the tribes would be to keep it in its natural state because it's viewed as the site where the Lakota and Dakota people came in the spring as the changing of the seasons, and there's a lot of thunder and lightning up there. It's right in front of Flag Mountain. So it would be kept for ceremonial use and for to maybe have some buffalo up there. It wouldn't hold too many buffalo, maybe 60 buffalo. And we might have a caretaker that might be in the vicinity to take care of that. And otherwise, people would be coming up just on a kind of a intermittent basis to conduct traditional Lakota ceremonies. And we have Mike Horses with us from the Oglala Sioux tribe, and he's kind of a tribal historian, and we thought it'd be maybe helpful to have Mike give you a little background on the site.
Thank you, Mark. Commissioners, good morning.
Morning.
The mention of the Black Hills always seems to be a contentious issue for us in western South Dakota. I think we all live here, raise our children here and our families, because it's a wonderful place to live. We have a very modest climate at times and also a very extreme climate. And all of these, good vibes, I guess, if you would want to call it that, our people considered the hills to be very special. We didn't occupy it, but we used the property, the land, and for celestial purposes, as well as honoring of the seasons. We took game from there. And the actual Lakota name for the Black Hills is Wapachta, which means bundle, which meant food. It meant nourishment. It meant spiritual nourishment as well as physical nourishment. So there were very strict guidelines on our use in that area. Hot Springs made a living out of the warm springs there. We'd bathe our older folks in the fall of the year and our young folks so they could last these winters. There are many, many stories about our occupation. You spearfish got its name from our people, Okua, where you spearfish. The streams were full of trout, native. There used to be a native buffalo herd, which got eradicated in the early 1800s there. So there's all this rich history, spiritual activities. Other tribes consider this very special as well, the Cheyenne, the Kiowa, the Arapaho, the Crow. But I think we all understand property acquisition. We were the last man standing when the United States showed up out here and began the treaty-making process, so it was our property. But we've had a many-century occupation with it. Essentially, our communities still look to the Black Hills as a place of renewal, both spiritually. Individual families have connections that they go into the hills and do family practices as well, enrich and nourish themselves. So I think with that background and the fact that many other Christian denominations have summer camps up in the hills for their children, because they get the same sense that we do, that this is a very special place. And our intent is to keep it as such, limit any development, if all, like Mark mentioned, maybe perhaps Buffalo, who are our spiritual partners. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to me for a few minutes here and encourage cooperation. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess in closing, we have the map up here, and the area that we call Peshla kind of means Old Baldy because it's that high mountain prairie and it's open land. It's kind of a unique feature, and it's surrounded by Forest Service land, so we've been in touch with them. And I guess today what we wanted to do is just, start a process of dialogue with you so that you would know that we're going to be making this application to take the land in trust. And in the process, you'll get an official notification from the Department of Interior asking for your views. So maybe at that point, we could come back and talk to you again, more about the specifics of it. But we didn't want you to be surprised, what are they doing up there or anything. We have a certain plan to keep it just as you see it, as kind of that open area. And folks would not come up there to have housing or anything. It would just be the intermittent ceremonial religious use. So we appreciate the chance to come here today, and if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
first of all, I very much enjoyed your presentation. Thank you. But I'm a commissioner and I always have practical questions. One of the, as you move through this, one of the things that and I don't know if this is the way it would work, so I guess I'm asking. I would believe that we would be responsible for law enforcement, for certain kinds of things that we're going to bear an expense for, but we're not going to be receiving tax money to do that. So everyone else will receive the bill for that. Am I correct? I think I would like to talk about
Sure.
that sort
Sure.
of thing.
Well, that's a fair question. We've been in touch with the Forest Service, and basically when the land is taken in trust, the United States holds the title for the benefit of the tribes. And so it's like federal land, and it's under the Department of Interior. So then it'd be up to us to have a plan for the government services up there. And if we wanted government services from the county, then we would have to come back and have an agreement with you about how to get those services. Otherwise we'd be working with, Bureau of Indian Affairs and, the Forest Service. We've talked to the chief forest officer about
We
fire
provide
suppression.
a great deal of that.
Yeah. So there may have to be some cooperative relationship, but then there's a reimbursement of, services that are provided. And we understand that there'd be some loss of revenue. Right now, this has all been agricultural land. We paid a little bit of a premium because it was going to go for auction, and we didn't know what the outcome might be, and it was important to the tribes. So maybe the current price might not reflect what the track record has been, because it's always been used for that agricultural purpose. And we're really continuing it forward in the same state and not planning to have further calls on the infrastructure there.
I guess I would just want to serve that as an upfront. I'm
Sure.
not opposed to it. I just feel like we need to have those sorts of things on the table because we are going to be responsible probably in some way.
Commissioner Holloway.
And you may or may not know this, but you say that the federal government holds the title for the tribes. Does right now on the federal grounds or federal land, we don't get a lot, but we get some payment in lieu of tax money. Does when they hold the title for the tribes, does that get incorporated in with the calculations on how many acres of federal ground there is for the payment in lieu of?
I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure on that. So I'll look into that, and we'll follow up with you on that.
That'd be great.
And it looks like, at least on this map that I got provided here, there's some roads that go through the middle of that acreage. There's no intent of trying to do anything with those roads.
No, the land would go in trust, subject to the existing right-of-way for the road.
Thank you.
And I think it's Rochford Road and Slate Prairie Road that go through there.
Right.
Commissioner Davis.
As you may know or may not know, that road is subject right now under discussion to blacktop that road from Deerfield to Rochford. And what would be the tribe's feeling about that?
I don't know that we've taken a definitive view on that. I think one of our folks went up and attended. There was a meeting probably a couple weeks ago and just attended the meeting for information purposes.
Well, I know Linda Kramer and her folks have stood against it. They're the ones that originally asked me, as their county commissioner, to dust-proof it, so we did. And then they've been fighting it ever since to stop us from blacktopping it. So I'm wondering if that's...
I think we're a little bit up in the air. I don't think we've resolved that question. We're really first and foremost looking to preserve it as a sacred site. And so I think some of our folks think, hey, blacktop would make it easier to get there, and other folks think, well, then you're going to have more traffic on the sacred site. So I don't think they've resolved that.
But we've been fighting that amongst ourselves and amongst the tribes and amongst Linda Kramer for 3 years or better.
Okay.
So it's time that ends, and we don't want to start it all over again, I don't think.
Yeah, I could see that.
So one
Okay.
other question that I have is, what about extradition of people off of this trust land if, say that somebody commits a crime and goes in there? Is that just like the reservation, that you can't extradite them off?
Part of the application would require that we have some kind of plan for law enforcement. And it might be that one of the tribes would take on a law enforcement role. Since we're really talking about people being up there just during the ceremonial periods, we're probably not talking about a lot of activity. But if it was under tribal jurisdiction, it would also be under federal jurisdiction, and
so
the
the
federal
county's
law
out.
enforcement authority.
The county's out to lunch.
There's always room for a cooperative agreement with the county, and that's something that we could talk about.
Anything else? Not, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, and we look
Thanks to
forward
each of you.
to keep talking with you, so, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to item 10. Request for authorization for the 2015 disproportionate minority contact intervention.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Mark Vargo, Pennington County State's Attorney. This is a request essentially that the commission allow us to function as a pass-through. It's similar to what we did last year with our voucher program. It couldn't be included in the budget because the DMC hadn't made their decision as to where that money was going to go now. Now they have, it is for the moral recognition, the data specialist, vouchers, and potentially a community outreach case manager. We're asking the county commission's approval for us to function as the pass-through for that budget. Judge Davis is here if you have any questions for either of us.
Commissioner Holloway?
The employees that will be paid under this, are they contract employees or?
The data specialist is already included in our budget. The Board of Commissioners has already tentatively approved that for next year, did approve it for last year. So she's already set and is an FTE that we've already got within our budget. The community outreach case manager, is that contemplated to be contract?
If it gets to that point, this is primarily just the voucher portion
Sure.
of the diversion program out at the Juvenile Services Center. And it's the actual vouchers that are provided to people for services. The staffing, Liz Heidelberger now is statewide coordinator, who oversees some of that, and Kim Morshing in Mr. Vargo's office is heading that up. So it is strictly just a pass-through.
So
Any other questions?
I do have, Mr. Chair. I noticed on the front page, in the third paragraph, it says a portion of this year's grant would again be used to compensate the data specialist. But at what point? I mean, it's not going to be a situation where if you don't get the grant, we don't have the data specialist. I mean, it kind of makes the budgeting sound a little crazy. And since we're in budget, you know what I'm saying? We're contemplating, or have we gone ahead and used this as part of paying her salary, or are we? I just want to know where that's going.
The short answer is no.
Okay.
And if the grant doesn't come to fruition the way we've outlined, then Pennington County is in no risk of inheriting
Okay,
an employee
that's right,
that was out
Thank
there.
you.
Any other questions or comments?
When will this be finalized?
Well, it's due the 27th of August,
Okay.
and it goes back to the Department of Corrections, so shortly, 30, 60 days.
Okay, all right.
So we might not have it before the actual final budget. That would be probably not.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to authorize the application of the 2015 disproportionate minority contact intervention grant by the state's attorney's office.
Second.
Does that include approving the chair's signature?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it does.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would just make one comment, Mark. If this gets approved before we finalize our budget, if you could let Holly know so that we could amend the budget so that you don't have to come in for supplements later on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 11, Buildings and Grounds. Mike?
Good morning. Morning. Mike Cool, Pennington County Buildings and Grounds. If it's all right, I have a handout I'd like to provide to the commissioners. I think as everybody is aware, the construction project over on Block 99 is nearing completion. Most major work within the building has been completed. It's mostly touch-up, the final cable pulls, touch-up work around the building. And the contractor is anticipating actually completing all his major work or any remaining work by September 1st right now. The contract date for the project is September 15th, so they are still looking at an early completion based on our current contract date. There is, as you can see, there is some remaining landscape work that's still proceeding out there, but everything is proceeding very well so far. I'm very happy with the relationship we've been able to maintain with Skull Construction and their subcontractors. The sheet that I provided you basically provides another rundown of where we currently stand in terms of overall spending. This one does include furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the administration building. And you can see that we've begun to spend some money there as well. Most of that is engineering and preparation work. We expect to see the beginning of major influx of materials for this, the FF&E starting next week. So we'll have trucks arriving on a fairly regular basis in terms of equipment and stuff that's going to be installed in that building at the beginning of next week. Overall, spending on this Block 99 project currently is at $26,738,422. $26,738,422.11. We have about a balance for that project of $4,324,141. Is there any other questions I could respond to, I guess?
Mike, how much of that $4 million is left as balance of the budget? How much is that is contractually obligated? It's not all contractually obligated.
No, it is not. That is also includes all the FF&E work in there.
Okay.
So,
But even with the furniture and signage, we had some contingency money set aside. You haven't expended all the contingency
we have about
money. And you don't
150
necess-
on the administration.
Just a second. And you don't necessarily expect to spend all of the
Correct.
contingency, do you?
I do not. So far, we've maintained balances. We had contingencies on each component of the project, and we've been able to carry forward a good chunk of those as we've completed those parts of the project. Currently with the administration building, we have a balance of about $151,000, I believe.
Okay.
So, Mike, these figures, though, don't include the cooperative efforts that we've done with the city, where they'll be contributing part of it for the part of the buildings that they're using. That isn't in here, is it?
Yeah, we're just looking at the project overall as a whole.
Just as a reminder to the rest of the commissioners that there are those funds that the city has paid for. This is just the cost.
Correct.
Any other questions? If not, Mike, do you want to go on to your?
All right. The other item I had was additional authority relative to the move. We put a great deal of planning and effort into preparing for this transition of moving the departments over into the new building. I think as most understand, that this is a pretty significant undertaking to make sure that this works well. We have a good plan in place, but I believe prudent planning dictates that we have some type of contingency in place in case something were to go wrong during the move. Generally, I think that most scenarios that we've have thought about could be addressed with procedures the county currently has in place. But in order to be prudent with in our preparation work, I'm asking the commission to authorize Commissioners Troutman and Holloway to be able to authorize my spending limit to be raised to $50,000 if needed during this move. Currently, it's at $15,000.
And Mr. Chair, just to kind of add on to what Mike is talking about, these guys our employees have done a fabulous job of thinking of all kinds of different aspects and planning for this move. And I really, really want to compliment all of them. It's been very impressive, and I want to really thank them. But I guess I worry, what if, we have such a tight schedule of moving. If something happens and we end up having a problem with getting one office moved, and then it gets that domino effect, and it looks like we need to hire some more people to help move, or we need to ask some of our employees to help us move, or whatever we need to do. I worry about that. Our schedule is so tight, and I think it's doable, certainly, but it isn't going to take a lot. Like, could take a snowstorm. A year ago we had a snowstorm, but in all seriousness, I am worried about that, and that is going to add costs that might stretch his spending authority, and then we have to wait 24 hours for a special meeting, and I don't really anticipate it'll be used at all.
No.
But I would sure, I don't know, it could really slow things down even more for us. And then it creates issues for the departments to continue to function.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I don't think I should make the motion. That doesn't look right. I'm not going to make that motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm sitting here wondering what the need to go to the $50,000 mark is. When we've had 15 for years and years, and they've worked through several building projects. What's the need to go to 50? So I'd support the 15, but I'm hesitant on the 50.
And the 15,000 has worked up until this period of time. The only reason why we're being a little extra cautious here is because of the tight timeframes that we're working within, and with a day's slip or something, we could potentially create a huge problem for all the rest of our moves, or if we end up with some potential problems with any of our furniture or anything as well, that we somehow we got to accommodate. We don't know fully what kind of situation we could run into. We're just looking to try and be prepared for it.
And it would only be temporary, Ken.
Yeah, it would not.
Only is in regard to the move. It is not for any other expenditures or anything. It would remain the same. Always. It's just for this move in case.
And you might not spend a dime.
No, I mean, we hope we don't. We hope it's,
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make the motion to do this, because obviously I trust the two commissioners. I just hope it's used for emergencies and not that,
Yeah.
oh gee, I would like a new desk.
yeah.
And, oh, well, we got 50 grand to buy one. You know what I'm talking about?
I'll second the motion.
And make that motion that her and I have to agree to, and if we don't agree
Yeah,
to
I
it,
agree with that.
then it comes back to the full board.
You wish to include that in your motion? Sure. And I approve as a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, there is one. Jay, you're on the hot seat. Did you see anything wrong with this? What this means to anything? Is it legally it's okay or?
It's okay, I see nothing wrong with it, and I think it's a very good idea.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mike. Next item is item 12, South Dakota Department of Public Safety State Radio Communications lease.
Good morning, Leanne Hollenshed, Emergency Services.
Morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff.
Morning.
This is an informational item. We simply wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we have agreed to lease some space to the Department of Public Safety for the dispatch services for Highway Patrol. They're tearing their building down at the airport. We already have an agreement that has not been executed yet to merge operations once we have the technical pieces worked out. However, in the meantime, this will put us co-located but with separate operations.
And then eventually it'll become one.
We will, yes.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just in terms of a little background, we started this discussions probably well over a year ago. And what held us up is they converted to a new records management system, as did we. So it slowed up the process of merging our two systems. But the goal is to actually take over dispatching for state radio in about the western third of South Dakota, which really provides for more seamless dispatching, both for the public and for first responders, so they aren't bouncing back and forth between two different dispatch centers. And it's something that's been talked about for years, and it's finally to come to fruition, hopefully sometime after we get moved into the new building and space will better accommodate it as well. But, we have to get, again, some nuances with our records management systems worked out, but it's going to provide us some unique redundancy that we didn't have before. Something catastrophic happens to our dispatch center or catastrophic to peer, one can pick up the other's radio traffic and dispatching, and that's some redundancy we don't have right now that will be beneficial as we go forward.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So we're not buying new equipment here. We got two consoles over there that we aren't using.
Correct. We only use when we have a major issue, and we have some backup plans in place in the event that happens now.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah.
If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is an abatement application, items from equalization.
Morning, Commissioners. You have two items under this for abatement requests. The first one is for the Cooterness, and this is an abatement request that comes to you from them, and I think they're here and would probably like to address the Commission.
Introduce yourselves, please.
Shirley Cooterna.
Don Kuderna.
When we got our tax notices in April, we noticed that we were not owner occupied. And we thought we had taken care of that. We moved into the new house in April 24th of 2013. And we had been to the office and conducted some paperwork in the process of building and everything. And the first time we tried getting owner occupied, we had missed the deadline on our move-in. So by about a month. And we thought during that, the next time we had taken care of it. We'd filled out the paperwork and taken care of it. And I don't remember exactly when, but we thought we had taken care of it. And whether we hadn't or whether they lost it, we're not sure. But we were under the assumption it was taken care of until we got our tax notices.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So this is 2013 taxes due in 2014 that we're talking about?
No, it's 2014 taxes due next year that we'd like to have abated because we moved in April last year, a year ago.
So when is the deadline
It
to
was,
claim owner occupied for 2014?
the
application has to be received by our office by March 15th of 2014.
Okay. Okay.
We had just sold the ranch and kept 190 acres, and the ranch has been in Kooterna since 1910, when Sonny's grandparents homesteaded. We sold 3,400 acres and retained 190. And we just thought that in all of our meeting times that we had taken care of it, so we were shocked when it was not owner-occupied status.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did you keep the existing building site and build a new house on that property, or?
There was a building site on where we're at right now, the Barns and Corrals, and there is another house there. We just built a new structure.
Okay, but that's not the same place that
Not
you were
where- it's
residing
about
before.
2 miles from where the old
Okay,
house
so
is.
you're actually residing on a different parcel of land.
Correct.
Okay,
And there is a house and barn and corrals and other buildings there, and there was already a road there. We just built a new structure.
So where you have your new house, before you built the new house, how was that classified?
Agriculture.
Okay, but not owner occupied.
Well, nobody had lived in that house for 20 years.
Okay.
And the Cooterin has never lived over there. It was the Olick house.
Good question.
Okay, okay.
I have a question for Jay, I guess. Can we actually do this? I mean, is there a statutory authority once they've missed the deadline?
Well, we didn't think we did. We thought we had the paperwork in.
you gotta come to the mic back there, Jason, on the radio.
Would you come up to the mic, please? Jay?
You need some time to look into this?
I suppose that would be appropriate. I mean, it sounds like the argument here is, I think I turned in an application, but there's no copy of proof they did.
Yeah, we didn't keep a copy of it.
Yeah, Frank, Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. I guess I would appreciate an opportunity to look into this further. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure that this qualifies for an abatement. It looks like what's being requested of you is to assume that they turned an application in and the department lost their application, and to assume had it all gone through, they would have got it, and therefore to abate it. I'm not certain off the top of my head that that's an abatable issue.
So would 2 weeks work for you?
That would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed to doing it, but I really doubt that missing the deadline is abatable, because the one above that says, the applicant having otherwise qualified for the classification of owner-occupied dwelling, but missed the deadline as prescribed by law due to temporary duty assignment in the military. And had you been able to do it anytime, that one wouldn't have had to been in there. See what I'm saying? Is because of that qualifying, because you're in the military, you missed the deadline. It doesn't say, gee, you just missed the deadline. But yeah, I think it would be worthwhile looking at.
I'd make a motion to postpone this to the next meeting, and
Second.
state's attorney can look into the situation.
Did you
Thank you.
second?
Second.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and before we act on the motion, I guess I would like to ask a couple of questions, and that is, in the case of a brand-new house, that you go through all the planning and zoning and the paperwork and that sort of thing, are they automatically classified as not owner-occupied? And does everyone who builds a new house have to make that application?
Yes. The law requires for an owner-occupied classification that the property owner provide us that application. So the default would be non-owner occupied.
But I guess I'm thinking about two government offices, planning and zoning and equalization. And in terms of having to fill out a form to say, I'm going to occupy this new house that I'm building. Excuse me. If that's required, why is it not part of the step-by-step process that goes on between the two offices?
Well, I can't speak for the planning office, but with respect to our office, the law requires that application to us. We provide that on the internet. We do mailings to property owners when there's a question, but the law still requires that they provide it to us, regardless of whether it's a new house or a purchase of an existing house.
Shirley, did you have something?
I had one other thing to add. We did receive a letter in 2013, but we had not moved in before the deadline for that one. But we did not receive a letter in 2014 after we had moved in. So we thought it was taken care of because we'd been several times after we moved in, we'd been at least twice into the office with questions. And we thought we had filled out the paperwork. But I did not keep a copy of it, sorry.
Thank you. We do have, yeah.
Just to clarify something now, I'm just gonna use my own home, for example. If I decide tomorrow that I'm gonna tear my house down, build a new house, I don't have to do anything with you other than get a building permit, and that notifies you to come out and reassess it.
The building.
But if I go to another piece of bare ground and build a new house and move from my existing one to that one, that's a whole different ballgame when it comes to owner occupied.
You still have to provide us that application
There
on
you
the
go.
new house. Yes.
On the same piece of property? No, because it's still owner occupied on the same ground.
You're right. I suppose that's an odd situation, but that's
where I
one
was headed
tax
a little
parcel.
bit ago, and I tried to, if I could find out that they were still on that same piece of
Yeah.
property. Well, okay.
Well, we're still on the same piece of property, the Cooter Ranch.
Yeah, but there's different land parcels.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, and we need to speak to the motion, so anything further? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The other abatement request, multiple, these come from my office. They are 3 requests. One from Mountain Shadows Properties for 2012 and 2013. The other one for Green Tree Servicing for 2012. All 3 of these are mobile homes that were moved without moving permits. We didn't know that they were no longer in the county, so we still had an assessment and a tax record. The treasurer's office, over the past several months, I think, has acquired a building permit for all of these, and then we bring this to you as a request for an abatement. The treasurer's office and the director of equalization work in cooperation on these situations. The homes were not in the county, so should not be on the tax roll. But we didn't know they left, and the law requires that they get a moving permit. So the treasurer's office asks us to not request an abatement until they've had a chance to either collect the taxes or get the moving permit, and they have done that on these.
Did they collect the taxes or get the moving permit?
Moving permit. So the abatement request here then would eliminate the tax bill.
So you can get an abatement if you're late with a moving permit, but not with a owner-occupied application.
It's still up to the commission.
Mr. Chair, I would move to grant these abatements in the amount of $1,991.28.
Do we have a second? Motion failed for lack of a second.
So we're not gonna grant them.
That'd be some kind of penalty.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, how do we know when they moved the trailers? If they didn't get a permit and tell us when they were moved, how do we know when they moved it? So how do we know that they're eligible for an abatement?
I can't answer that specifically. I know they're gone. Between our office and the treasurer's office, we discovered that they were gone. The treasurer then also found out that they are in Lawrence County and confirmed that they paid taxes in Lawrence County. How exactly we know they moved, I assume it's because we sent them an assessment notice or a tax bill, and it went unpaid. It goes to a warrant with the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office goes out there and finds out that the home ain't even there. That's typically how it works.
I see two of these are 2012, for tax year 2012. One of them's for 2013.
That's correct.
Those two that were in 2012, did they get assessed in 2013 as well?
One of those is for both 12 and 13. The Green Tree servicing is just for 2012. For 2013, we had discovered that it was gone.
So they've already paid these taxes then?
In Lawrence County.
So the 2012 taxes was not paid here in Pennington County?
That's right.
So they're shown on our records then as delinquent taxes?
Yes.
When did you get the moving permits, or whatever you called them?
The treasurer's office collected those. The moving permit is obtained from the treasurer's office over the last couple of months, probably very recently, or we wouldn't have them here now.
But the one you didn't tax in 2013 because you discovered it was gone, even though you didn't have a moving permit.
Yeah, we didn't have a moving permit, but when we discovered that it was gone, we took it off the tax roll for 2013 because it's not here. But the 2012 assessment still existed. When we discover they're gone, we take it off next year's assessment. But the assessment for this year or last year still remains.
So how did you figure out that one of them was gone and the other one wasn't?
They're different homes.
They're at the same place, aren't they? Same location?
I'm not sure.
Did you find out that was gone by driving out there and saying, hey, this is gone?
I think the way it happens is when the sheriff's office goes to collect the warrant, we find out it's gone. Our office, not knowing it moved, assumed it was still there. But when the sheriff's office goes to collect a delinquent tax bill, they actually knock on a door and look for somebody.
Mr. Chairman. So these people, they haven't paid these taxes.
They're unpaid, yep.
So when we abate it, what's going to happen is the auditor is going to take this and tax everybody else in the county for these abatements, as she has to do by law. So we're going to be paying taxes on property that never was here and that Lawrence County got the tax money for.
And then the county won't get anything out of it, but the schools will.
That's right.
I'm not exactly sure how it works on the auditor's end.
We got an
are.
education from Lawrence Coffee.
I'm going to make a motion to deny them. I don't think that people of Pennington County, I can't do both at the same time.
Second.
Can we legally do that?
Did you second that? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I just can't see people in Pennington County paying property taxes on mobile homes that weren't here and that they never got moving permits, so we don't know. And the abatement process, that's what's going to happen. We're going to pay the school tax on property that wasn't even here.
Commissioner Holloway.
I got a question, I guess. Can we charge people taxes on property that's not here? I mean, I know that our equalization department taxes property questionable property all the time, but this is pretty clear that if they weren't here, can we collect taxes on them? Can we force these people to pay taxes in Pennington County on property that wasn't actually here, when it appears that the reason we charged them the tax in the first place is because we didn't go out and find out if the property was even here?
Best to answer your question, can we tax property in Pennington County that doesn't exist? Logically, of course we can't. I don't know how.
But if we continue with the abatement process, we will do that.
The recourse.
Somebody else will be paying it.
The recourse for an unpaid property tax bill, mobile home or otherwise, is when you don't pay your property taxes, the county can take your property. On all types of property, that is what the recourse the county has. In this case, the property wasn't here and is still not here.
And Mr. Chair, I also have this question. In a way, they will be double taxed because they did go to Lawrence County and they did pay those taxes based on state law.
The Treasurer's Office went to the next step to confirm that they did pay taxes in another county.
Okay.
You know, I agree with Commissioner Buskerud that the rest of the taxpayers are going to have to eat this cost. But it doesn't appear that it's, other than not getting the moving permit, it doesn't appear that it's the property owner's problem. It appears that it was our own assessor's office problem. And maybe that's what we ought to be having our concerns address is why are we assessing property that isn't here?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think the reason that probably that's done is because the only way the assessor knows that it's gone is to get that permit. It goes through the treasurer's office and then it goes to the assessor's office. So I don't know.
But Ken, obviously they figured out that the one was gone in 2012 because they didn't assess it in 2013.
That's
Now,
why
the other one they did.
That's why I seconded Ron's motion, to get a lot of conversation about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it, but.
Me neither, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
Mr. Chair, may I ask Janet why that would be, why we wouldn't be dealing with 1 year so that we can clear up that concern?
We take a copy of the moving permits and send them over to the Director of Equalization Office. You know, maybe they got lost in the transition, I don't know. But every one of these abatements that he puts in for now, we research all these out with Chris, and we find out from the serial numbers and everything, did they get a moving permit? If they didn't get a moving permit, we make them pay the taxes, or we're going to turn them over to the state of South Dakota and let the state fine them $250 for every time they move a mobile home illegally. But when they got the moving permit and they paid the taxes at the point that it was moved out of Pennington County, it got missed being taken off the tax roll.
So when did you get a copy of the moving permits on these things?
We would have got a copy. It was moved probably in 2012, correct? Because these are for 2013.
How do we know we actually got that?
Because we can go into our system upstairs, our motor vehicle system, and we can tell that we got a moving permit. And we've checked all of these out.
So before
Shannon ever came here, we checked all these out to make sure. And the ones that he was going to put in for an abatement that didn't have moving permits, we've contacted those people and said, hey, you need to pay these taxes, you're not eligible for an abatement, and you need to buy a moving permit, and you need to bring the taxes current.
So you make them not only buy the moving permit, but they have to pay the back taxes,
Yes.
even though they've moved their trailer out of our area.
But they moved it illegally.
But we're charging them taxes for property that wasn't in Pennington County.
At the time when they moved it, it was.
Yeah, your taxes are always paid the following year, so
Right.
last year it was still there.
So what you're saying is if I move a mobile home to Lawrence County on July 31st, I pay Pennington County up to July 31st, I pay
For
those
the
taxes.
whole year.
You pay for the whole year. And then the following year, they will pay Lawrence County.
Correct.
Okay.
So on these two trailers, do we know what dates they were moved?
We can get copies of the
I
permits.
don't have those notes. We do, but I don't have that with
Yeah,
me.
we never tell him. We just say, we research it, and the research is done by Kara, Annette, or I.
So they probably would have been moved in 2011 then, because we're getting rid of the 2012
Let's see
tax.
what the questions ask here.
11 or early in 12.
Yeah. And because of the way the distress warrants work, they don't even see them until January.
Oh, the following year.
We discover these more than a year later, by the time the sheriff's office gets around to find out it isn't there.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Janet, did they actually pay the taxes along with getting the moving permit?
Yes, they had to bring
So
the
what they're looking
taxes
for
current.
here is the money back from the county because they paid the taxes. So if we
No,
don't,
no, they're not, we're not gonna give them any money back.
This is the
so then
taxes,
what are we baiting?
these are the taxes that, because these were on the tax record after the home moved. The taxes were paid up until the year that it moved. But because we didn't know until a couple of years later that it moved, we have a couple of years more on the tax roll.
Your office didn't know it, but her office did.
She doesn't find out until the sheriff's office discovers it. By that time, it's a year late, and then the
No.
sheriff's office.
Not on all of them.
She had a moving permit.
That's not true. If they got it, when they get their moving permit, we know. That's why we make copies and send them.
Substitute motion now, vote.
But the point is, these did not have moving permits until you went after them, right?
No,
Again.
they had a moving permit. They acquired a moving permit and proof that the taxes have been paid in Lawrence County on the first one.
I think that you just discovered that here recently, though.
Right. But we look them up to make sure they have a moving permit before he ever puts them on your list anymore.
So we are totally confused as to what the hell's going on here.
Okay. Do you want copies of the moving permits with the abatements from now on and proof of tax paid? Because we can do that.
You don't
If that one-
necessarily
That's
need,
not the
you don't necessarily need the copies, but if Shannon's gonna stand up here and ask
He's-
us to
he's gonna-
waive this, he needs to have that information available. He needs to be able to tell us, yeah, they moved them in January of 2012, so we need to abate those taxes that were assessed in 2012. But right now, I don't know when they were moved. He doesn't know when they were moved.
There's no reason to do this at this meeting. We can come back to the next meeting with that information.
Mr. Chair, I make a substitute motion to refer this to the next meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second, substitute motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the substitute motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, item 14, items from Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Barry Tice with Pennington County Health and Human Services. As you're aware, in January, Governor Dugard and Secretary Zimmerman implemented the Reach All Veterans campaign, or RAV, as it's known. It was the goal of our office to assist with this campaign, and Neil Lutke and Jamie Guffey from the Veteran Service Office have put a great deal of work into attempting to reach all veterans in South Dakota, and we received an update today that of the 75,000 veterans in South Dakota, 40,000 have had contact. So Neil's going to give kind of an overview of what we've done out of our office. Switch over here.
Good morning, Neil Lutke, Veteran Service Officer. I'd like to start this update with a little information about what we regularly do. As you may know, that there are over 12,000 veterans that reside here in Pennington County. And if you count their surviving spouses and the dependents of those veterans, our office then has a total clientele of about 25,000 folks that we serve. And as we serve those people, whether it's an enrollment into VA healthcare, or maybe a claim for disability, a claim for a pension, any of those items that we do with that veteran or with the dependents, it generates income for that dependent and also income into Pennington County by the Department of Veteran Affairs. In 2013, expenditures by the Department of Veteran Affairs here in Pennington County alone exceeded $112 million. And of that $112 million, about $47 million was for disability claims and pension claims, and over $10 million was for education benefits for residents of Pennington County. If you look at our recent claim activity, which I believe you have in front of you, I just want to point out that typically we do around 2,000 claims in a year, and currently we've done over 1,000 this year and over 900 so far for 2014, and about over 250,000 of those claims have been for 250 of those claims have been for disability compensation or pension. And those claims generate funds not only for the veteran, but obviously here in the county. And you can see that the financial awards for 2013 exceeds over $1 million. And that's for the VA completing about 92% of the claims we did so in 2013. For the 2014 numbers, they've completed about 22% of those claims that we submitted in 2014 so far, and that's over $302,000 worth of benefits. Now I'd like to move on, unless you have any questions, I'd like to move on about the RAV. We're really super excited about RAV. As Mr. Tice mentioned, the RAV was generated or started in January of this year by Larry Zimmerman, Secretary of South Dakota Department of Veteran Affairs. Governor Dugard, in conjunction with Secretary Zimmerman, started this program. The goal is to reach all 75,000 veterans that reside here in South Dakota. And as Barry mentioned, they've contacted over 40,000 to this point. Here in Pennington County, first of all, RAV was a two-pronged approach for reaching veterans. It was a phone campaign to try to call all the veterans. The second prong of the approach was for all the veteran service offices to hold open houses where we could sit face-to-face with veterans, et cetera. That process also included us distributing many posters and brochures and things like that in local communities. We were exceptionally excited about that part of the program because that allowed us as a Pennington County Veteran Service Office to get into some of the more rural areas of Pennington County because typically we don't get outreach into those areas. We spend a lot of time, as you can imagine, right here in Rapid City. So that was exceptionally exciting for us. On your sheet, you can see that over 4,600 veterans have been called here out of Pennington County. We've, in the office itself, made about 600 of those calls individually. Jamie has made the vast majority of those. But we've been assisted by employees of the South Dakota Department of Veteran Affairs and other county VSOs who've actually called some of our veterans on our behalf. So they've called over 4,000 of Pennington County veterans. Every time we make contact, whether it's through one of our open houses or through these phone calls, some of the examples of the outcomes of those are on the program that you've been given. But a lot of times these are veterans that didn't know we existed as an office or didn't know that they qualified for any veteran benefits at all. So this has not got us out into the community and it's really been successful so far. We have had open houses here in Rapid City. We did one at Western Dakota Tech and one downtown at the Main Street Square during the Military Appreciation Day, and very successful. We also, as I mentioned, we're excited about the outreach. We did an open house in Wall at the firehouse and also one in Hill City at the Senior Center. I'd like to wrap up my report with some goals. You don't have a sheet on this, but we hope to continue our outreach, not only continuing our RAV calls, but we hope to continue outreach to some of the outlying communities in Pennington County. We also hope to increase outreach right here in town to some of the retirement centers and assisted living facilities. We have a lot of veterans, older veterans that are in those facilities who are not aware of the benefits that they've earned. They're not aware that they could possibly getting compensation or pension from the VA. Also, we'd like to continue expanding our outreach into the Department of Corrections. We go to the minimum unit here in town, the minimum detention unit, every other month, and also we're expanding into the Pennington County Jail to reach incarcerated veterans. The reason we're doing that is because we have found that there's a marked increase in the success of veterans as they get out from being serving incarcerated if we introduce them to their VA benefits, whether it be health care or claims for disabilities or whatever. They're much more successful. So that's our goals for outreach. And now we'd love to answer any questions you have.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chair, is this just for this year, or how are they timing it? Or is it now and forever, or whatever?
I'll defer to Neil, but I don't believe we've received an update yet. It's my understanding that they're going to see actually how close they get to the 75,000 veterans.
Okay.
Yes, it will probably continue to be an ongoing thing, only because as we contact veterans statewide, we're getting updates from more veterans that maybe we didn't even know existed. Also, we're getting updates on veterans that have passed away, et cetera, that we still had on the rolls per se. So I think it'll be an ongoing thing. I know for us in Pennington County, we hope to continue in the future. Maybe not to this extent after we complete the initial RAV, but we hope to continue the outreach part of it.
Any other questions? Excellent report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item B.
You have in front of you the memo. I was approached by the community development director regarding some community development block grant funds that were remaining from a 2013-2014 two grant years that another agency had the opportunity to spend and they were unable to. And so she asked for if our office would be interested in administering these funds, which helps defray some of the costs that we use through Pennington County. And as you can see, it's a total of $18,345. $7,400 of this is from 2013, and $10,945 is from 2014. It allows for some administrative costs of $2,700. It's like the Vakurovich grant. It would be a good piece to this puzzle when we can access Vakurovich funding, community development block grant funding, and economic assistance, Pennington County funding. So it's pretty, we've gone through our computer system, and we actually accessed this grant in 2010. And so everything is set up within our office. It's not going to take additional staff time. I've visited with KJ about how this would be set up in the budget, and I'd say it's fairly simplistic. It's pretty cut and dried, and so.
Mr. Chair, Barry, what would these funds be used for? How would they be expended?
We would look at some additional rent, some deposits. Deposits is a huge Pennington County, through economic assistance, we do now provide assistance with deposits, and that's a major piece that we've been trying to focus on within our community. We've actually started to expand deposits through the Vakurovich grant. Initially, we used that funding for individuals who would come in with Section 8 vouchers, and we've now expanded that beyond Section 8 vouchers just because of the cost of rent and deposits to help individuals get into permanent housing.
So you're 20, you would apply for this money, and would you expect to have that all spent by the end of 2014?
That's the goal.
So Barry, will you, I mean, granted, our folks that we help as a county would be eligible probably for this, but would there be referrals like from community development, or how, I mean, is it just for our particular operation, or is there going to be referrals from outside agencies?
If we're given approval with this funding, we have a number of our employees who attend community service meetings throughout the month, and so that'll be offered up to other agencies in town. And it typically spreads, the word spreads pretty quickly. So I would foresee the funding going pretty quickly. And I meant to mention to Commissioner Holloway is some of that funding could be used for transportation needs, bus passes, so individuals for employment, things like that as well.
So are you going to need a supplement to your 2014 budget to cover this? If you get the grant?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Barry, how have we been paying for this now? Has that just been in your regular budget and it hasn't been
Correct.
coming from grant money?
There's rent and utilities that we can pay for, and minimal transportation costs through economic assistance, but we rely a lot on a discretionary Vakurovich Foundation fund, which expands that to help with deposits, purchase bus passes for.
Okay, but we're not starting a new plan, so we're gonna spend $20,000 that we've been spending for this other thing. We're gonna spend $20,000 on the grant stuff and still spend the 20 for something else. That's gonna cut your budget back anybody spending this grant money?
It should, I would hope it would help.
I would make a motion to authorize the Health and Human Services to apply for the block grants. Is that what you're looking for?
It's already there, isn't it?
Or you've already applied for them?
Sign the contract.
I think he's pretty much got it confirmed. There is a motion that is on the bottom and kind of bold that not only includes the chair's signature on the application, which they came to him and asked him if he would take it over, and it also includes the scheduling of the hearing. We will actually set this up similar to the Vakurovich budgets and keep it separate, because in the event that for some reason it didn't all get spent by the end of the year, it's grant funds specifically for this, and yes, we would probably come back in and ask to supplement. I'm hoping with it being such a small amount that we'll do this one-time supplement and get it all spent by December 31.
Okay, I guess my motion was then to authorize chair's signature to the Community Development Block Grant to be managed by Health and Human Services, and to schedule a hearing at 9:15 a.m. Tuesday, September 2nd, 2014, to supplement the Community Development Block Grant General Fund budget in the amount of $18,345 from non-budgeted revenues received in the current year. I just didn't know that's what I
Can you
was saying.
repeat that motion?
Yeah. Say that verbatim without reading it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Barry. Next item is from the Highway Department. Tom?
Morning, Tom Wilsey from the Highway Department.
Morning.
First item A is the state contract list for road salt. I'm requesting authorization to enter into a joint purchase agreement to purchase road salt from the state contract list. Documents for the contract are on file at the Highway Department. State contract is effective August 1st through July 31st, August 1st of 2014 through July 31st of 15. Our total purchase is anticipated to exceed $25,000. This is part of our budget item. I request a motion to allow me to purchase road salt from Blackstrap Inc. of Neligh, Nebraska, as per contract number 16655.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Item B is a resolution to revise Pennington County Highway System. This is more of a bookkeeping item. The state, in conjunction with the DOT, we've had efforts to update our inventory to Pennington County roads. The resolution will remove roads which fall under the jurisdiction of Rapid City and Wall from the state's inventory of Pennington County. In addition, the resolution sets forth the proper classification of Pennington County roads listed within the resolution. In order to adopt this resolution, the DOT requires a notice of public hearing to revise the Pennington County highway system. Be posted 10 days before the action is taken by the Board of Commissioners. We will post the notice of public hearing as required in legal newspapers to be held at the Commissioners' meeting September 19th of 14 to adopt the resolution. I'm going to ask, do you want me to read the whole resolution? There's 28 pieces of roads here. I didn't think you would. There are 14 roads within the city of Rapid City that they have taken over of our roads. There's one road in the city of Wall. There are 3 roads that the state has listed as primary roads that we consider secondary roads. It's just changing their classification for them. Those roads all be removed from our primary system. There are 10 roads that the state has listed as secondary, but we treat them as primaries. We wish to change them to the primary.
Okay, so do you need a motion at this time on this resolution, or?
We need to bring the resolution for a public hearing on the 19th of September, so we can get the correct ad. I guess this is more letting you know that we have to do it at that time. Okay. That I'm gonna go to advertising for this.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Tom.
Item C.
C.
This is a resolution to designate New Underwood Road, 161st Avenue, a state highway. This is in conjunction with what Meade County did on the same road. To read everything here, currently there's a lack of north-south connectors between Rapid City and the region east of Rapid City. The need for these connectors is great enough. Trucks heading north, traveling public, are using this road as a more direct route. I guess I'll give you the Reader's Digest. The road is taking a beating up there, and we're requesting the state to adopt this road as one of theirs. to the state trunk system to ensure motorists that are already using this road will have an alternate route through the area. There's 113 miles between two north-south roads, and that's the largest in the state of South Dakota. I will read the resolution for you. Pennington County resolution to designate by statute New Underwood Road, 161st Avenue, from Interstate 90 north to a state highway. Whereas New Underwood Road, 161st, is the only north-south connector between two state highways for 113 miles, the longest such stretch in South Dakota. And whereas due to this great distance connecting the highways, New Underwood Road has become by default the major transportation route to Rapid City for the north central region of western South Dakota, most notably for the Cheyenne River Reservation. Whereas Pennington County daily traffic counts on New Underwood Road, north of Interstate 90, numbered 1,187 vehicles, which exceeds volumes of traffic on numerous highways throughout the state. Whereas New Underwood Road is being utilized by more heavy trucks, especially those headed to the Bakken oil fields in North Dakota, whereas the increased traffic counts and number of heavy traffic loads places undue strain on county reserves. Therefore, be it resolved, Pennington County Board of Commissioners requests that the legislature designate by statute that New Underwood Road, 161st Avenue, from Interstate 90 north to this be a state highway. This is in conjunction with what Meade County did.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you've been in Pier before. Does the legislature designate state highways, or
Yes,
does
they do.
the
Yes, they do.
transportation?
No, the legislature has to act on it. And that's unfortunate. They should have a criteria that says once it reaches this point, it's automatically.
You're right.
Someone should have done that when they were in the legislature.
I introduced the bill, Elmer Flatt and I did, and the highway contractors fought it and killed it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think the motion that we need is to approve Resolution 2014-08-19 and authorize the chairperson's signature thereupon. That is my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Holloway.
Why do we have the most notably for the Cheyenne River Reservation? I mean, no, did we go out and do a survey and determine that?
To what Meade County told that is the most direct route to Rapid City from the Cheyenne Reservation. That was what they.
It's the most direct route for all of that part of the
all
country.
that whole area, but that is the one area that is the most affected by it. It's
I
just
don't know how they get affected any more than the people who live in Faith.
It affects them too, yes.
People live on the reservation, they do in there.
It was just what they requested.
Whatever.
Any other questions or comments? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D.
Item D. This was brought to me by Commissioner Peterson. Landowners in the Orchard Meadows region contacted Commissioner Peterson about drainage and roadway concerns they have on a service road. This service road is east of Elkvale Road on the north side of Highway 44. During this conversation, we expressed a desire to find out more what can be done to alleviate some of the problems on this road. Condition of the service road is extremely poor, and drainage from the north comes down to Highway 44 and collects on this road. The gravel road has received no maintenance for a long time, and the service road is in the DOT right-of-way. What we're proposing to do is get the DOT, county, and the city together and discuss this with the landowners to see what can be done to help alleviate this problem. There's a development going in south of 44 in the city limits, and this will increase traffic tremendously along 44. I think there needs to be some work done for safety reasons for these people to have better access onto 44.
Tom, I have a question about that.
Yes.
You know, that's just been there forever, and I'm not even sure it's really a worthwhile thing to maintain a service road. I've thought, and of course, we have an engineer back there, so he can tell me, but I was looking at that. I went and looked at it, and watched a little bit, and would we be better off to put some turn lanes in there to make?
The problem is it's in the DOT right away.
Yeah.
We can't do anything there. We're just trying to start the dialogue to get some work done in this location.
Yeah, because it's going to get really awful, really.
It's going to get ugly when that development gets going real fast there.
Yeah. Okay.
I know the state DOT views this as just a long approach. Not their problem, but we're going to include them in the dialogue. We are planning a meeting with all parties the 27th of August. And DOT has already confirmed to me that they will be in this meeting. Mostly this is an update to keep you up on what's going on here.
And it might be worth it, we have that Metropolitan Planning Organization, depending on how your 27th comes out, might be worth it to come before them too.
Yes.
Okay. I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Anything else you want to add to this?
What's that?
Is there anything else you wish to add to this?
Well, it's an unfortunate situation that as the areas expand over time, that a situation like this would be where these people are trapped between three governments: state government, city government, and county government. And they are in a position of saying, how can we change things? And so you just go round and round and round. So the attempt on the 27th will be to resolve something.
Yeah.
So, and thank you, Tom, for checking
This
that out.
meeting will be the 27th at 11 a.m. at the community room for the City School Administration Center. It's already been scheduled.
Good, thank you. Okay, item 16.
That's called Elderberry Boulevard.
All right, Commissioners, what you have in front of you is a complete rewrite of our policy and procedure for appointment process to committees, boards, task force. We do have a current policy that needed some work. What you have in front of you, like I say, is a complete rewrite of our policy and procedure on how we advertise for, what process we use to select, and how we appoint for liaisons to committees. Another piece that I would like to also bring to your attention is on the third page in section 4. This is the formalization of the unwritten policy that the commission office uses to for commissioners when they come in to be appointed to the committees that you guys are liaisons for. So I respectfully request your approval of this, and we'll stand for any questions.
On section 4, Holly.
Yes.
If, let's say that nobody puts in for one of the committees we're supposed to liaison to, I didn't really see that necessarily addressed here. Will that just be that the commissioner chair then will just appoint? Like if somebody says, nobody really wants to do that one, or there's a few that might be that way.
I believe item C would address that, which says all such appointments would be made by the chair.
So it would
We
go
would
ahead
assign
and-
somebody
No
to
matter what, okay.
every committee, whether you are happy about it or not.
Yeah, because you could just not submit anything and hopefully you wouldn't get appointed in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So, okay. But do you think it's worth it to say that that will assure that there is somebody appointed to everyone, or do you really think C takes care of it?
I think it's kind of common sense. I mean, we have committees we have to be represented on, whether it's mandated by statute or we're in collaboration with their organization, so.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Any other questions or comments?
So do you want us to make a motion to
Approve, please.
approve? Okay, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the amended Pennington County Policy and Procedure appointments for committees and boards for the Pennington County Commission,
Is there a second?
or by the County Commission, I guess I should say.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B.
The second item you have in front of you today is to introduce a public comment card program. The intent of this is to encourage citizens to offer feedback and suggestions that can be used to improve the performance and quality of services within Pennington County departments. Second fold of that would be to also assist and identify potential problem areas that we may have. You have a sample of the comment cards, and I'd like to thank Jessica. She designed those for us. This is a very generic type public comment card, but we're hoping to more engage our citizens and get some feedback from them, whether it be positive or negative. So we'd like to ask for your approval to implement this program. And I'll stand for any questions on that.
I, of course, have questions.
What? You what?
So how will we distribute these? Will we put them at each window?
Our envision is we would like to have a main place in the new building on the second floor where the main traffic would be. I have not been in contact with Mike Cole to find out where that would be. That's kind of low on the priority list right now.
Sure.
I do know the treasurer's office has her own comment cards forms that she uses. I don't intend this to replace anybody's, but they could certainly use it in conjunction with. Certainly they would be available down by the commission office, but strategically placed where people could get to them. I do have a form that I use when individuals come into the commission office and they want to document or make a complaint specifically. This is more of a generic type card.
And would we offer it on the website? Say somebody gets home and they just have a comment.
We do have a form on the commissioner's page on the website. There's actually access to any department's webpage where they can go in and submit comments to us through our webpage as well.
Okay, because I was thinking it might, maybe you should just put it on there that they can do something on the website. You've got,
Absolutely.
like,
We
right
could,
down there in that
I can certainly work with Russ to see if we can create a form like that.
Yeah, because it'd be kind of, sometimes it's best to keep it so it looks the same, and then people get used to it and think, oh, yeah, I get home, I had to rush back to work, I want to say something.
Oh,
I can
absolutely.
go online. Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, I think this is a pretty good idea, and I don't have any problem with it, other than the fact that I think we should consider the fact that if they are sent here anonymously, they immediately be filed in Circle 13.
And we could certainly make that a provision in this policy. That's another kind of unwritten policy that we follow is anybody that calls to complain and does it anonymously, we don't address it. So I could add that as an item in here if you wish to amend this policy as well.
I think we'll be winding up with a stack of cards about EA High just for people wanting to play games.
We want it to be effective. We want it to be useful and hope that people don't take advantage of it like that.
So one other question that I do have, in the procedure you have that the commission office shall receive all comment cards and maintain all originals. How long are we going to do that? Are we going to set a time? Do you want to?
You know, I didn't think about doing that. We could do 1 year. I guess 1 or 3 would be my recommendation. I don't want them to take up a whole lot of space, but.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe we could scan them in and.
We could certainly do that and destroy them as well.
Yeah.
And Jess and my envision was to have some sort of database or some sort of reporting system that would go along with it.
Yeah. I go ahead.
Well, I'd make an amendment to your policy to have you maintain them for 2 years.
Okay.
Because if you haven't dealt with it in 2 years, or you don't have a history
Yeah.
in that 2 years, you just well get rid of them.
Okay. we can certainly do
Otherwise,
that.
and I wouldn't scan them into your computer program because it just burns up more storage unless you have something to delete them after 2 years.
Okay.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the public comment card policy with the addition of the maintaining them for 2 years
And the web-based,
and the web page.
okay,
And the signatures?
and anonymous.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item 17.
This is simply a resulting resolution from the presentation that you heard at the last meeting from Mr. Ty Latau with the Department of Agriculture with the state. This is the resolution that is required if the county wishes to participate in that program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Next item is item 18, planning and zoning.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Could we take a 10-minute break?
We maybe could.
Okay, that's my motion.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. 10-minute break. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And the next item is items from planning and zoning. Okay.
PJ Conover, Interim Director, Planning Department. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, moving on to item 18 from the Planning Department. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and a vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for the planning and zoning contains the following items. Item A, a second reading of rezone 1404 and comprehensive plan 1404 for Kendra Larson with Fisk Land Surveying as the agent, and approval is recommended. Item B, second reading of ordinance amendment 1403 for Pennington County to amend sections in section 204J, the on-site wastewater treatment systems of the zoning ordinance, and approval is recommended. Item C, layout plat 1417 for Josiah Frink and Pamela Frink, and we're asking it to be continued to the September 2nd meeting. Item D, the first reading and public hearing of rezone 1405 and comprehensive plan amendment 1405 for Josiah Frink and Pamela Frink, and we're asking that be continued to the September 2nd meeting. Item E, a minor plat 1418 and subdivision regulation variance 1406 for William and Nancy Ewing, the agent, and denial, approval, and waivers are recommended. Item F, first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1406 for Pennington County, and approval is recommended. Item G, first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1405 for Pennington County, and approval is recommended. At this time, staff is asking to move items B and E from the consent agenda to be put on the regular agenda.
Which ones?
B and E.
B as in boy?
B as in boy, E as in Edward.
All right, thank you.
Does anyone wish any other items on the consent agenda removed?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda with items B as in boy and E as in Edward removed and request by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Did you wish those two items dealt with separately, or?
Dealt with separately.
Okay. So we would go with item B.
Good morning, Brittany Molitor, Water Protection Coordinator. Item B is a second reading of Ordinance Amendment OA 14-03 Pennington County to amend sections in Section 204J. At the previous meeting, there were two changes that weren't in the original motion that I would like to include in the original motion on pages 21 and 22. On page 21, in Section 4A, II, the word land changed to lot, as it is in the section 1. And then on page 22 was to strike in the first paragraph. The second, it says deficiency notice of noncompliance, and it says notice of noncompliance again, to strike that.
Any other changes? Any comments or questions by the commission? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to make those changes as stated by Brittany, rather than go through them all again.
Is there a second?
Well, I'll second it, but are you suggesting that you want to approve the second reading with those two changes?
No, I was thinking we needed to put them in as a change.
Yes, because I believe at the last meeting, you had approved the first reading, and then the motion was made, and then those two changes were discussed after the fact. So at this meeting to,
And at the second reading, we can amend the first reading and
Okay,
approve it.
okay, so then that would be my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance as amended.
Correct.
Any discussion?
If I recollect correctly,
You are?
I'm George Farabee. Last meeting, on the first reading, I asked that sub 2 be changed to read the same as sub 1. In other words, land be changed to lot. And here we are 2 weeks later, and I guess this is the official document that you folks have in front of you. This is the public document. And I guess my question is, why wasn't it changed before this meeting?
So tell us,
204J 4 sub I and or sub 1 and sub 2, however you want to read those characters. Page 21.
okay, that helps.
Excuse me.
That's the change we're making right now?
That's the change I'm making. Why wasn't
Well,
this
the reason
made?
it wasn't because we didn't take a motion on it until today to make that change. And just because you stood up there and made the suggestion doesn't make the change. It takes a motion of the board.
Pardon me? Planning and zoning is proposing the change.
Well, you said you asked for it.
Is there anything further?
Wow, unbelievable.
You just said that.
Any other questions or comments? We do have a motion and a second. Being no further comments, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item E.
Good morning, Lisanne Zeller from the Pennington County Planning Department.
Lisanne, would you pull the mic right up and speak right into it, please?
Good morning, Lisanne Zeller from Pennington County Planning. Agenda item E is a minor plat, PL 14-18 and subdivision regulations variance request 14-06. This is to create lots A and B of Ewing Addition and to waive several platting requirements. The applicant is William and Nancy Ewing. The agent is Ron Davis. This property is located at the intersection of West Highway 44 and Forest Road near Johnson Siding. The reason this item was pulled from the consent calendar was due to an issue with how the motion was worded at Planning Commission and what their intent was and how that was translated into a motion and conditions. So I'd like to clarify that today. And hopefully get a clearer motion from the board today. I can certainly provide a lot more background on this, or if you would like me just to propose how I would like the new motion and conditions to be worded, I'd be happy to do that as well. Basically, there was just need some clarification on the motion and the conditions that were done at Planning Commission. So with that, basically, there were several subdivision regulations variance requests to waive road improvements to Forest Road, right-of-way, and easement with requirements. There's an easement that's being proposed across Lot A to Lot B to provide access to that Lot B. It's being proposed as being 40 feet wide instead of the 66-foot requirement. So the motion that was done at Planning Commission needs to reflect, oh, this is confusing, I apologize, reflect better what Planning Commission intended, which was that the 40-foot easement be allowed, but they also required a 22-foot paved driving surface in that easement. So with that, I would like a motion from County Board stating that the subdivision regulations variance is being denied to waive the dedication of additional right-of-way for Forest Road and road improvements to the access easement, and then that the subdivision regulations variance is being approved to waive engineered road construction plans for all required road improvements, to waive road improvements for Forest Road, to waive additional, and to waive dedication of additional easement width for the access easements across Lot A, providing access to Lot B. With that, I would like to make some changes to conditions 8 and 9.
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
Yeah.
May we just do this in a couple of different motions? Because it's becoming very
Yeah, I know.
confusing.
Yep, I
And that's
understand.
probably what happened last time.
Yeah.
Could we maybe do one issue at a time since it is so much going on?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. So let's address then first the access easement with requirements. So Planning Commission agreed to allow a 40-foot wide access easement in lieu of a 66-foot as required by the subdivision regulations. But then they required that the road be paved and be 22 feet wide instead of the 24-foot requirement of our subdivision regulations. So that needs to be reflected in the motion.
So could that be one?
I suppose it could be. I'd like a change to the motion and a change to condition number 9 as well. I understand that those are separate issues, but however the board would like to tackle it, it is fine.
Well, first of all, don't we want to just deny the portion for the waiver of the engineered road construction plan for all required road improvements, and to deny the waiver of the road improvement to Forest Road?
Actually, to the access easement, the Planning Commission agreed to waive the road improvement requirements to Forest Road.
So really, the wording here that we have from the recommendation is not quite right.
Correct. And that's
So really, we should have gotten some clarification of what it is we're supposed to be looking at. It would have been helpful.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard when you're going through all this and we haven't had a chance to.
I completely understand. I was confused when I read the minutes, so I'm trying to think how we can best resolve this.
Is there a time limit on this?
I don't believe so, Ron. The agent
I really
is here.
hate to do this to you, but to make it right, perhaps it would be best to continue it and make sure we have it exactly the way it's supposed to be, because that's going to mess the landowner or future landowners up if we don't.
Yeah, what happened was Lisanne was gone and Dan had quit, and the people that we brought this to at planning really didn't know much about what was going on, so I explained everything as carefully as possible, and I thought we got it right. And it was real awkward wording in the motions, as you can tell.
Yes.
And it didn't really cover what we all agreed upon, so I would say if we continue it 2 weeks or whatever it is, that would be fine.
Really clear it
Give her time now that she's back. And
Yep. Yeah, and I apologize. I just got back yesterday, so
Oh, you can't help it.
Yeah.
I can tell you had too much fun, you got a cold.
I did catch a bad cold, so yeah, a little too much fun.
Mr. Chair, I got a question that goes right back to the very start now. Is there still a contract for deed on this property?
Correct.
And who is making the application for the,
Bill Ewing made the application, And he told me at the time we did the application that he had paid it off. Now, I don't know if it's still, if it's been recorded over here or what, but he said he's paid the contract for deed off and is a sole owner of the property. I can't verify that, I don't have the information. but
Yeah.
That's what he
Well,
said.
let's say that has not happened. Can he still make application for this?
Yes.
Because he's not the owner.
As a contract for deed owner, I understand that he can, but of course, if our legal representation has a different interpretation, I would
I
default.
just asked him that question. I want
Yeah.
him to get up and explain that, if
Yeah.
you would, Jay, if you would say what you just told me, so it's on the record.
I might have to ask a question about what your ordinance reads on that issue. Obviously, a party in possession under a contract for deed certainly has an interest in the property through contract. So if the ordinance or the application says anyone with an interest in the property may make application, then I would assume that would be okay. But I guess I'd have to defer to our planning department as to how broad that is. If it literally says the sole record owner, then it would not be right for the contract for deed party to apply. But I don't know what the language is on that.
Yeah, and I don't believe it's that specific, but that's something I can certainly check into if we're going to continue this to get the motion correct to the next board meeting. That's something I'd be happy to look into and get straightened out.
And to see, for what it's worth, to see if in fact that contract for deed was paid off and,
Yeah.
and the deed has been transferred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be my motion to postpone this until the next commission meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item H is the first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment 1404 from Pennington County to amend sections 319C5 of vacation home rentals. Taking the recommendations from this board and planning commission, staff had met with Jim Peterson and Joyce Segru on the 14th of this month and are in the process of drafting up some ideas, and we'd just like to take it back to the planning commission and ask for continuation of this item until September 2nd board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next item is commission response to a letter received from the West Dakota Water Development District. In your packets, there should be a copy of the West Dakota letter and a proposed response. And the draft is placed before you for your approval or disapproval or amendment in terms of a response that represents this commission.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I guess I was curious. It wasn't only, I don't want to just single out Mr. Richard. I mean, we did have comments from over the last couple, maybe even 3 years, from other members of that board. And I guess it isn't, I mean, it was more than just one person who has said they were not interested in being a part of Project 319. And, I mean, you know, we've had other folks say that, too. Should we put that in there, or?
If,
I mean, we can be specific, that's fine, but,
if you have a suggested wording and placement, that's fine.
yeah, because I was thinking that Sandra Bashera, who was their chairman of the board at the time, came and told us that they were pulling their money and they were not interested in being a part of the project. It's been a while, but I mean, maybe 2 years. Maybe I don't remember exactly when she was, and certainly Mr. Fairby, when he was on the board, told us that. I I'm just curious as to, I guess I did listen to the meeting, and I was quite surprised that they didn't seem to know why things were where they were. So I definitely think we need to respond the way you've responded. And we don't need to necessarily put that all in, but it wasn't just one communication. We've received multiple communications over the last couple of years. And we proceeded based on what they were telling us.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
As I remember, the Board of Directors of West Dakota was here and made that statement that they were no longer interested apparently in being in the 319 project, and that they were pulling their donations to the 319, as I recall. And so I think something probably should be there to that effect. But
So do you have wording that you wish to add to the letter?
well, I wonder if we shouldn't go back to that meeting if we can. We still have the disc up, I presume.
We do.
And we could go back and see exactly what was said by their board of directors and whether she was operating under her assumption or an assumption of the board that's sent here by their directions. I'm not sure. So I think that's what we need to do, and I think to add that into there somehow with yours and Holly and the state's attorney's knowledge, and make it very plain that they're the ones that pulled the plug. We didn't.
Any other thoughts or comments?
So are we looking for a motion to approve the response, or should we, okay.
Yep.
So, having the conversation that Ken and I just had, or the words that we just spoke, I mean, I do think it needs to be said on such and such a date, so-and-so was here on behalf of West Dakota and said this, or indicated this, or whatever. And so that we know that the information they're getting is pretty precise. But I would make a motion that we add in the additional contacts we had from West Dakota, from folks representing them, and as a reason for us believing that they were no longer a part of it, didn't want anything to do with it, you know.
Mr. Chair, if you were looking for a place to intersect something like that, I'm wondering in the first paragraph down towards the bottom, it says, the sentence says, while we appreciate and respect others' viewpoints, the impression received from this interaction is West Dakota as a group no longer supports the project. And maybe it should be right there someplace, while we appreciate and respect others' viewpoints, the chairman of the board, or chairwoman of the board of directors of the West Dakota Water was here at a Pennington County Commission meeting on whatever date that is. And say, we were informed at that time that West Dakota Water was not interested in being part of this and pulled their funding.
Is that doable, Holly? Can you check the discs or whatever you do?
Magic.
I watched the meeting in question yesterday on YouTube. It was June 6th of 2013. Chairman Beshara stood up and said that the reason they pulled the funding was because they were kicked out of a public meeting that was held in June. That incident is neither here or there, but that was the reason that they gave for pulling the funding. Their communication was basically that they would look at becoming a member again, but they felt that they hadn't been getting adequate information regarding the group. And the whole argument was about whether the meetings were open to the public and whether the public had the right to be able to speak on items. So there's a lot of factors that go into this discussion that we're having. the way I see it, it basically comes down to West Dakota needs to decide if they're going to be a supportive partner, if they want to be a collaborative, supportive partner in this project right now.
And in my estimation is if they don't want to be, they've got nothing to say about it. Other than being public taxpayers and can speak individually to that effect, but I don't, as a board, I don't know how they could intersect into this.
So again, you know, as that June 6th meeting, they had requested to change representation, and this board decided not to change any because Denise was doing a good job and felt that no change was warranted. So again, there's a lot of factors that go into, again, this is all my impression, my understanding of what I've seen happen here, what I've seen on the meeting tapes, and what I've heard in listening to the audio tapes of West Dakota. So I'd be more than happy to change the letter to say multiple members of West Dakota at various times throughout the last several years have come and spoken against various aspects of the project, including
Chairwoman and others.
Chairwoman Bashara. I can certainly do that.
I don't know. Are we off base?
Any other thoughts relative to the well, number one, should the letter be sent, and do you wish the contents amended?
Mr. Chair, I totally agree that the letter should be sent.
I do too. We can't fix another organization's dysfunction.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I listened to the tape and of their meeting, and obviously I thought we were dealing with two different things, because their impression of what was going on and my impression of what went on here are miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things said here in this meeting that weren't true either. And so I don't know the things being said there that aren't true. I don't know that. But I know for a fact that there's things that was represented in the meeting here in Pennington with the commissioners that were false.
Well, I'll make a motion that we send the letter as amended to all the members of the West Dakota Water Development District, not just the chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Dan Richer, I'm pretty honored about having my name thrown in here about 4 or 5 times on this thing, since I've never spoken before this board as a member of West Dakota.
We can prove that through.
Go ahead. Because Ken has always asked if I'm speaking for West Dakota or as a person.
I haven't always asked. I've asked you a time or two. Mr. Richer, I believe you're the one that said a while back something to the effect about that I said something about disabled veterans. And if you remember, that statement was made by you to start with about Pennington County employees.
Let's
different.
We have
it has nothing to do with it, but it's just falsehoods around here.
We have a motion and a second. And in terms of the motion, is there any other comments? If not, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do we have one more item to take care of along those lines? I received a letter from RCAC that said they would like a representative on Spring Creek Advisory Committee.
I received that letter also, and at this point, since it's not on the agenda, I think we should address it at a future time.
Okay, should we put it on the agenda?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports. And Ken, you're in charge of the fair?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. Competent people are in charge of it, by the looks of things. They're doing a fantastic job. They've got a great attendance so far. They brought the elephants back, which the kids and the people really like. And the concerts that they've had have been well attended. The motocross races were really attended, and the demolition derby, they had to bring extra bleachers in and set them up before they could start the demolition derby. So they're going great. Also, I left a copy of this magazine on the desk for everybody, and this had to do with the Appreciation Day at Ellsworth last Saturday. I talked to the wing commander at the fair Sunday, and he told me that they had a little over 3,000 people there in attendance to the Appreciation Day. So let's see, did I have anything else? Nope, just that's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Buskerud?
Yes, I had a South Dakota Association Board of Directors meeting last week. Discussed, the major item that we discussed at the meeting was the changeover of the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance from having Hagen Benefits as the administrator to they are going to administrate it themselves. And it's going to start in January 1st. They think they can save $1 million a year by doing it that way. They were a little less confident on telling me where the $1 million was going, but hopefully it will go to lower our fees that we pay them. So that was the major thing. I delivered the packages to the Resolutions Committee. I didn't stick around for that because I'm not on that, so it was on Friday, but Mike said he would take care of that, so.
Just to piggyback on, I did talk to Mike on Sunday and it passed, so.
Okay, I figured.
So our resolution to study the, I guess I don't know, I didn't talk to him about the fireworks, I'm sorry, but.
No, I concentrated more on the, I'm sure that passed because that always has unanimous support, but.
But anyway,
The MAG one, just keep studying that.
Yep.
They were all in favor of it.
Commissioner Holloway?
I have nothing to report.
Other than that, that's,
Okay. Items from the public. Anyone from the public wish to address the commission?
Make a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Busker seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have
Yippity-doo-dah.
no motions to make, correct?
I make a motion we adjourn.
Yep, second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.